Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. It's me, Vinod, here, and I don't have Shashwat with me, and I'll try and bring him in a video soon. But while I have your attention, there is something which a lot of you have been asking us, or asking me at least, that why don't we ever talk about public sector companies? They are big, they're huge, they're large cap, they're going to be there forever. You tell me all the positives which any new investor will do this, because even I have done this. I've been at fault of this. When I started thinking about investing, the first thing I told my brother is, why don't we look at all these government companies? Of course, Congress was in power back then, so I had more ammunition in my hand. And I did argue saying we should be an Anand, even though Congress was in power and Manmohan Singh was around. He said, no, don't you dare ever buy PSU stocks. And the reasons are becoming more and more evident, especially in the recent article which came in Economic Times, which talked about public sector undertakings, as they call PSUs. Okay, there's been a heavy decline in these companies. The 19 of them, which they've talked about in the article, are from non-banking. They have fallen by 40 to 55%. Another 28 have dropped 30 to 40%. Collectively, they have lost over 8 lakh crores in market capitalization since the 1st of August 2024. So we've been talking about market corrections. We've been talking about Manappuram. We've been talking about FMCG sectors. And we've been talking about Tata stocks. But most of the time, we don't bother to shine a light on the government stocks. So this is very apparent. If you do remember, I did a video a few months back about a famous Sehwag tweet about his friend and what happened and why it is bad advice to follow someone in public realm when they advise you to buy something. I spoke about it. Those of you who haven't seen that video, do go check that one out. Or if you know about that video or about that story, you know what I'm talking about. So I really feel sorry for that person, Sehwag's friend. He must be burning even more in the pain he must be feeling, considering the fact just from August to now, we have seen this kind of steady decline. I don't think he invested in non-banking companies. I think he invested in banking, but I'm not sure. Anyway, getting back to the point. The reason is the valuations of these companies have been unrealistic. Okay, they do not support the kind of price because the earnings are not there. And most of these earnings which have been projected in these things have been hoping that government will step in and do something, and the government will do some spending, and they will be in favor because the government will, of course, want to hoist these companies up to show, because the government earns dividends from these PSU stocks. So if you're wondering why government would be motivated, why would they think the government will be motivated to make earnings in these companies go up? Because simply when dividends are paid out in these companies, it directly goes into the government's hand, because governments are the majority shareholders, and that's why they call PSUs. And if you notice, the decline has been very sector specific, like defense, capital goods, Cochin Shipyard, for example, Shipping Corporation of India, HUDCO, Bharat Dynamics. Okay, these are the ones which have been hurt the most. And if you're thinking about recovery, it's going to be slow. And you can imagine how slow this recovery is going to be, because when we're talking about recovery in the broader market, analysts have said, don't think their FIs are going to come running back to our shows very soon, because now slowly most Indian analysts and Indian investors are slowly coming out to saying, like, yes, mutual funds are coming on saying we are a little overvalued. Yes, our valuations are a little high. Our PE numbers are a little too much from the historical averages. And I'm saying it's too much. I would say it is beyond too much. We are in stratosphere, across that we're on the moon, where our valuations are compared to something like China, which is far more below ground. At least now it's not below ground anymore in China. If you see the latest numbers, their stocks have been pushed through the roof, except for one or two. Most Chinese companies have grown up by 15 to 20%, which have been listed in their stock exchange. So their PE numbers have all turned very healthy. And if any FIIs is planning to jump into the Chinese bandwagon, I think it's a bit late for them, because most of the wind has been swallowed in their sails and those ships have bolted. Anyway, coming back to the point of the PSUs. There's always been lackluster growth in this. And of course, the major problem with PSUs is spending. Government spending is what has influenced in these. And you can see this in terms of electronics, railways, and defense and pharmaceuticals. All of these have very tempered growth expectations because of governments meddling in these companies. And I want to circle back and say now, a lot of you might be thinking, okay, Vinod, if you're saying these are down by 50%, they're down by 40%, does that mean there is value here? We have seen them correct significantly, Vinod. So I should now put these PSUs in my radar. And for those of you who feel like that, new investors who are very encouraged by this correction, as they say in the PSUs, I want to throw some light on why I would still avoid PSUs. And this is true when they were valued very high. these are very true when they are valued very low, because these are fundamental problems with PSU companies, which is what I wanted to talk about. One, they're owned by the government, and you know how bureaucracy is in the government. Those of you who have been living in India, who have been born in India, know how well our government functions. Regardless of the political fraternity you are in, if you've been here for some time, you'll know that no matter who's in power, in a local level or in the central level, bureaucracy is terrible with our government, and trying to get things done in our government can be very, very painful. And if you have experienced this firsthand, how do you think it's going to be any different when the government is running a business? Political influence is rampant in these companies, and we all know what political influence is. We have seen movies about this, we have heard about this, we ourselves make jokes about this. So that is very apparent. The other thing is inefficient management. The bureaucratic structure in these PSUs and the multiple layers they have, and the way things move around, and the very extremely slow decision making which is there built into this, baked into these companies, they are not agile at all. You've seen how slow our banks are, PSU banks, to adopting technology, computerization, mobile banking, internet banking. If you have been dealing with our PSU banking sectors and you see it compared to our private sector, you'll see a huge gap. It's like the gap which you see between the rich and poor in India. That is the experience, customer experience, which is there between the PSUs and the private banks. Of course, there's argument saying they're getting better. Yes, by the time these guys get to where these guys are moved even further. So that is because of the lack of agility and decision making, which is so poor. It's not that they can't do it. It is just that there are so many layers of approval and so many guys who have to tick the boxes. By the time these approvals come, the buses left the building. And another problem is, we all know about the transfer system in these companies. There's a frequent leadership changes. And each leader, as long as he's telling to his super boss, yes, 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 he gets to say. The minute he says, no, 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 or like, can we look at this differently, he'll be gone, off with his head. So up and down, the management is like this. So how can you function? If no leader is there who can think of an idea and implement a plan and execute it, how do you expect these things to grow in a company? So that is another problem. And second thing, major bracket which you can talk about is unrealistic valuations. There is always speculative price movements when it comes to PSUs because of the way the government talks or certain ministry talks. Then you'll suddenly see an explosion in a stock, and these valuations never tend to follow where true earnings are. So either they yo-yo up and down. So as an investor, it doesn't give you anything to hold on to know, okay, I can follow this and trust this. And they always go through sharp corrections and highly unrealistic levels of valuations. So this price goes on yo-yoing like this. That means you cannot look at anything as a mean or say revision to the mean when these stocks are looking at. So you really do not know where you can even look at thinking of considering buying these stocks. And profitability is terrible, and financing is terrible because they're all dependent on government funding and government aid. Because of finances is mainly the problem in it is lack of accountability, and there's limited focus on shareholders and investors and paying any attention to them, because the government is a major shareholder and whatever they decide to do, that's it. We've known this about a lot of big companies. We complain about companies in India which are owned by families and we don't have a choice. We have to kowtow to their whims and wishes. This is very true in government-owned companies. Shareholders have no seat on the table there. So what do you get? You get no voice at all in these companies. And it's heavily regulated. The PSUs, like you thought the government had regulations, all that is permeated into these PSUs. And you can imagine how much regulation there is in these PSUs. So taking all these into account, and the lack of labor inefficiencies and the labor strikes which happen, it is very difficult to know the future of these PSUs. So as an investor, if I'm going to put my money, if I want to own a business, I wouldn't want to have a business like this. So if you take the metrics of value investors and valuing a company, with all the things which I just told you, why would you want to own a business? So if I told you all this is there in a business and I said you want to buy this business, you'll be like, hell no, I don't want this business. You will not want to invest or buy in it. So as the same applies when it's PSUs. So if you use all this analysis and you take a moment to look into it and you keep all the other stuff outside it, that is why you cannot invest into PSUs. And that's why I don't put too much weightage on all these other intrinsic value calculators which you guys use. And if you use all these calculations and all these other methodology, you'll say all these numbers look very nice. But they're meant to look nice. That's the problem. If you really look at beyond that and see who runs it and who owns it, that's where the problem starts. So anyway, so for those of you who have been holding on to PSU stocks and who are suffering with this decline, which I've seen 40-50%, my heart goes out to you. And if you're going to be asking me what should I do with this, I do not have any idea other than I don't own these stocks for these fundamental reasons. And if I have any opportunity, if I did have them, if I have an opportunity to get rid of them and save my capital, I would look at that. That would be me. So keep that in mind. As I say always, I'm not a SEBI registered advisor. So all what I say is my own personal experience from my own personal consumption and for your entertainment. Keep that in mind. If you do have PSU stocks and you're wondering what you should do with it, do talk to your financial SEBI registered advisor. Talk about your risk profile and talk about your views on it, and then make a learned and educated investment decision. Don't go based on my video or what my opinions are, for heaven's sake. Thanks for watching the video. As always, do subscribe and like. Do share this with friends and families, especially those of whom own PSU stock, who are suffering or are feeling terrible about it. And maybe this will give them some insight onto why this is happening to them. Other than that, nothing more. I'll see you in the next one soon. Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back to Be Rich. Before we get into the video, I wanted to bring to your notice that my uncles Vinod Srinivasan, Anand Srinivasan and I have rolled out our Substack, which is basically a blog/newsletter where we're going to post our original research onto it. And we've analyzed macroeconomic trends, and a lot of you know my uncle Anand Srinivasan and I regularly write for The Hindu, and these articles are also going to be made available for you in the Substack. The link is moatinvesting.substack.com. You'll find it in the description and in the video right now. We hope you go check it out. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. And please give us comments and feedback on what you read. Thank you.
It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.